Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Look at the flowers. The demigods are showering us with flowers. Isn't it? Let's put this on. So today is also Lochan Das Thakur's appearance day. According to this calendar, other calendars have other days sometimes. I'm going to incorporate some things that he did, some things he wrote, and pastimes with Srila Prabhupada and Lochan Das Thakur's song. Hopefully into the class. See how it works out. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Naruttamam Deving Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Vitale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Divisa Sunyavadi Praskitari Sutari. So this is still within the third canto, and it's chapter 5. Vidura talks with Maitreya, and we're on text 7. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Kridan Vidhate Dvija Go Suranam Kridan Vidhate Dvija Go Suranam Shemaya Kamani Avatara Vedai Shemaya Karmanavatara Vedai Mano Na Tripyati Api Shrinvatam Na Mano Na Tripyat Api Shrinvatam Na Sushloka Maules Charitam Ritani Sushlokamolais Taritamritani. Okay, so Kridan Vidhate Dvijako Suranam. Shemaya Karman Avatara Vedai. Manona Driptapi Shrinvatamna. Sushlokamudais Charitamritani. Kritan Vidhate Dvija Gosuranam. Shemaya Kaman Avatara Vedai. Mononatrifyat api Srinvatam na. Shushloka Mulesh Charitamritani. I believe that's 3 times.
Kridam vidate dvijako suranam.
Kridam vidate dvijako suranam.
Shemaya karmanya avatara vedai.
Shemaya karmanya avatara vedai.
Manona trivya chapi srinvatamna. Suslokamalis charitamritani.
Kridam vidatte vijago suranam. Shemaya karmani avatara vedai. Manona tripyate api srinvatamna. Shushlokamoli charitamritani.
Kridan vidate vijako suranam.
Kridam vidate dvijako suranam.
Shemaya karmanya avatara vedai.
Shemaya karmanya avatara vedai.
Manona tripyat yapi shrinvatamna.
Mononatripyati Srinvatamna.
Sushlokamolesh charitamritani.
Suslokamalis charitamritani.
Kridan vidate vijako
Kridam vidate dvijako suranam.
Shemaya karmanya avatara vedai. Manona tripyat yapi shrinvatamna. Sushlokamolesh charitamritani.
Okay, word for word is Kridan, manifesting pastimes. Vidhate, he performs. Dvija, twice born. Go, cows. Suranam, of the demigods. Shemaya, welfare. Karmani, transcendental activity. Avatara, incarnation. They die differently. Mana, mind. Na, never. Yati, satisfied. Api, in spite of. Srinvatam, continuously hearing. Na, our. Shri, Su, Shloka, auspicious. Malay, of the Lord. Charita, characteristic. Amritani, undying. So the translation by Srila Prabhupada is: you may narrate also about the auspicious characteristics of the Lord in his different incarnations for the welfare of the twice-born, the cows, and the demigods. Our minds are never satisfied completely, although we continuously hear of his transcendental activities. So please repeat. You may narrate also about the auspicious characteristics of the Lord in his different incarnations for the welfare of the twice-born, the cows and the demigods. Our minds are never satisfied completely, although we constantly hear of his transcendental activities. So Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Lord appears in this universe in different incarnations like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, and Nrsimha. And he manifests his different transcendental activities for the welfare of the twice-born, the cows and the demigods. The Lord is directly concerned with the twice-born or civilized men. A civilized man is one who has taken his birth twice. A living entity takes birth in this mundane world due to the union of male and female. A human being is born due to union of the father and mother. Did I just say that? A human being is born due to the union of the father and mother, but a civilized human being has another birth by contact with a spiritual master who becomes the actual father. The father and mother of the material body are so only in one birth, and in the next birth, the father and mother may be a different couple. But the bona fide spiritual master, as the representative of the Lord, is the eternal Father, because the spiritual master has the responsibility to lead the disciple to spiritual salvation, or the ultimate goal of life. Therefore, a civilized man must be twice born, otherwise he is no more than the lower animals. The cow is the most important animal for developing the human body to perfection. The body can be maintained by any kind of foodstuff, but cow's milk is particularly essential for developing the finer tissues of the human brain so that one can understand the intricacies of transcendental knowledge. A civilized man is expected to live on foodstuffs comprising fruits, vegetables, grains, sugar, and milk. The bull helps in the agricultural process of producing grain, etc. And thus, in one sense, the bull is the father of humankind, whereas the cow is the mother, for she supplies milk to human society. A civilized man is therefore expected to give all protection to the bulls and cows. This is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to the Chankazi. Because they were talking about that the cow is not the cow your mother, is not the bull your father. How can you be? This is what Lord Chaitanya was saying to the Kazi. There was some scriptural thing in the Quran, and it's there in that particular pastime. The demigods, or the living entities who live in the higher planets, are far superior to human beings, since they have better arrangements for living conditions. They live far more luxuriously than human beings, yet they are all devotees of the Lord. The Lord incarnates in different forms, such as a fish, a tortoise, a hog, and a combined lion and man, just to give protection to civilized man, the cow and the demigods, who are directly responsible for the regulative life of progressive self-realization. The whole system of the material creation is planned so that the conditioned souls may have the opportunity for self-realization. One who takes advantage of such an arrangement is called a demigod, or a civilized man. The cow is meant to help maintain such a high standard of living. The Lord's pastimes for the protection of the twice-born civilized men, the cows and the demigods, are all transcendental. A human being is inclined to hear good narrations and stories. And yet, There are so many books, magazines, and newspapers on the market so to satisfy the interest of the developed soul. But the pleasure in such literature, after it is read once, becomes stale, and people do not take any interest in reading such literature repeatedly. Excuse me. Yeah, there was a song once, Who Needs Yesterday's Newspaper, or something like that. In fact, newspapers are read for less than an hour, then thrown in the dustbins as rubbish. The case is similar with all other mundane literatures, but the beauty of transcendental literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is that they never become old. They have been read in the world by civilized men for the last 5,000 years, and they have never become old. They are ever fresh into the learned scholars and devotees, and even by daily recitation of the verses of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no cessation. Or cessation.
Satiation.
Is it satiation? Satiation. Okay. There is no satiation for devotees like Vidura. Vidura might have heard the pastimes of the Lord many, many times before he met Maitreya, but still he wanted the same narrations to be repeated because he was never satiated by hearing them. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord's glorious pastimes. Om Agyanta Marandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurvamaitamjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, along those lines, we also get tired of hearing of the pastimes of the pure devotees and their relationship with our in spreading the movement, and because it's Lochan Das Thakur's appearance day, I think I wanted to start off by, it's a story that I've told many, many times. I never get tired of telling it, but it's appropriate for today because it's Lochan's appearance day, and this way, since Vidura is asking about to hear the pastimes of the various incarnations, I would like to talk about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And because Lochan Das, Lochan Thakur, has written some very interesting literatures, very unusual, and they reveal some of the esoteric reasons for the Lord for coming. So anyway, the first off is that on February 28th, 1975, 46 years ago, Srila Prabhupada came to the Atlanta Temple. And the only deities we had there were Gaurnitai of Bell Meadow. They were the first ones to come from Navadvip, from Mayapur. But Prabhupada had just been on a trip, and he had gone to Dallas, to Mexico City, to Caracas, to Miami, he would pronounce it that way, Miami. And then he came to the best temple, to the Atlanta Temple. Those were his words. He said, I've been to Mexico City, I've been to Caracas, I've been to Miami, and now I've come to the best temple, your temple. And at that time, the whole temple room was filled with devotees. All of the Atlanta devotees, which numbered between 60 and 80 at the time. The Radha Damodar brahmacharis were all there. The traveling library party that went out selling standing orders were all there. Devotees from all over the East Coast, as far north as Canada, and even devotees from the West Coast. They were on traveling Sankirtan. They wanted to be there when Prabhupada arrived in Atlanta, thinking that it would be a very intimate setting. And actually, so it was packed. And so when Prabhupada was being driven up, he saw this huge crowd of devotees standing outside. And he comes inside, and he still has on that pink jacket, and with the pole ties, and at the end of the pole ties were the peacock eyes, the peacock feathers. And he walked in, and all the devotees were standing and on one side and the other side. They always left an aisle for Prabhupada. So when he's sitting on the Vyasa, he could have darshan, which is something that's been lost mostly in ISKCON. But there was always a separation in the crowd. So he walked down the aisle towards the deities with his head held high, but very humbly, and just sort of floated down. And it was like a general reviewing his troops. And then he sees Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, pays his obeisances. And we had mirrors on the wall. And Prabhupada saying, what is this? And we said, well, there was mirrors there. Oh, very nice. Then he walks back, gets on the Vyasa, still with his coat on. And then he quotes from Lochan Das, I don't know why I keep saying Das, but Lochan Thakur's song, Parama Karuna, Pahu Twijana, Nittai Gaura Chandra. He's looking at the deities very intensely, he's looking at the devotees. And tears just start flying out of his eyes. And he's saying, he's looking, he says, Parama Karuna Pahu Twijana, Nittai Gaura Chandra. So these two Prabhus, Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, who are now but he couldn't really get through. He was choking up as he's speaking. These two who are standing now here on your altar, the very same Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who appeared in West Bengal 500 years ago, are now standing here on your altar in Atlanta. And we could all see that Prabhupada wasn't seeing what we were seeing. He was actually seeing Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. His emotions were so, it was like he was holding in all this ecstasy for so long, and it burst out. And this is something that Prabhupada was very careful about, not to display these ecstatic symptoms publicly. But it just burst out because the backstory is that Shuddha Kirti Prabhu said that Prabhupada had been traveling, and there were other deities similar to ours. After we got ours, then other devotees like in Gainesville did, but Gainesville was still there. It was closed temporarily and then came back. But they had smaller Gauritai deities. Miami had similar, and then in Caracas they had a smaller set. And so and this was all a trip that he was on his touring around the world, on his way to Mayapur for the really first real big Mayapur festival in 1975, when there would be devotees from all the continents coming to sing and chant the holy name of Lord Krishna in the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the pinnacle of his efforts. And shortly after that, after many, many years, the establishment of the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, after great difficulties, and being established with the help of his Mleccha disciples. He had come to the West, and he's gone to Central America, he's gone down to South America, and even here, in these remote places. When he was in Gainesville in 1971, he said, this is a remote corner of the world. And that our movement Lord Chaitanya's movement has spread so far and wide. This is Lord Chaitanya's prediction, and I thank you all for helping us. Maturity Kirti said that he was constantly meditating on Lord Nityananda's mercy during this trip, and seeing all these devotees and seeing these deities, the deities, how beautifully they were dressed. And so he couldn't finish speaking. The whole talk took about 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. He said, Sabha Avatar, Sarasiramuni, Keva Avatar. He said, so Krishna is kind, but Lord Chaitanya is even more kind. When Krishna came in Bhagavad Gita, he didn't actually say Sarvadama Prityaja, Mamikam Saranam Vaja, Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayasam. He said, Krishna came and he wanted surrender. That was the stipulation, you surrender. But Lord Chaitanya is even more kind than Krishna. He's come and he's just asking you to take shelter. And then he really became emotional. And so then he said, thank you very much. He got up. And the whole place exploded with kirtans and everybody, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And then he walks back to his place, and the first thing he says when he gets into the room is, wherever I go, the smell of fresh paint. That was the running joke. I mean, literally, that building that he was staying in, when we moved in there around November of 74, this is February 28, 1975, that was a deserted building. No one had lived in it for years. And it was a mess. I mean, and then we find out maybe 3-4 weeks prior, there's a possibility that it might come to Atlanta. So there was just non-stop. We had 2 shifts, 12-hour shifts going around the clock, trying to get everything ready. We had to build an altar. The Vyasa sign was being built when Prabhupada was being picked up at the airport. And so we didn't know if the steps were going to work. We didn't know if the chandelier was going to fall down. We didn't know anything. So, but it all worked out. So then, but this isn't, because this is Lochan Das's, I don't know why I say Das, Lochan Thakur's appearance day. You know, he's a musician. He wrote many, many songs like Parama Karuna, Pavadrijana. And by the way, Srila Prabhupada taught us that song at night. We were having classes at night. The first night, he sang it, and they recorded it. And he wanted to do a 1-2 beat instead of 1-2-3. It was like that. And then, but nobody could play the drum to that beat. So what he did, he says, you play it back for me, play me singing, and I will play the drum. I'll teach you. So I need a madanga. So everybody wants to give their drum, and all of them just like dead. None of them, because of the humidity in Atlanta. And everyone's going, oh, please, drum, it works. So then Prabhupada takes one drum, and he just keeps working it like this. And it was dead, it was flat, and then he just got that sound. I don't know how he did it. And then he would play. After he did this, and we were all learning how to do this bhajan, on the way back, Shruti Kirti said, Prabhupada, everyone's so amazed at how expertly you played the drum. And Prabhupada said, well, I've been playing for 80 years. So Lochan Thakur is a disciple of Narahari, who is also a musician. And he was born in 1520. I don't know if he actually had direct association with Lord Chaitanya, but he was associating with many, like the likes of Murari Gupta, Narahari, Raghunath Das, Jiva Goswami, many other stalwart devotees. And Murari Gupta and Damodar Pandit, they had written a biography or a diary. They were keeping a diary of the Lord's pastimes. And Murari Gupta, of course, we know is Hanuman in Ram Leela. And he was keeping a diary, and it was written in Sanskrit. So the Bengalis, it was, they're not so expert in Sanskrit. And so what Lochan Thakur did was to take the writings of Murari Gupta with the help of and Damodar Pandit and translate it to Bengali. And he did ragas, and the style of music, or raga, is Panchali. Is that correct, the way of saying it? Panchali? Anyway, it's there in his biography. And there's 5 ragas. one of them is Lakshmi, and there's 4 others. And so it's easy to listen to it. He didn't do it exactly in the strict form of the Sanskrit verse, and he made it into little short verse and made it into ragas with this Panchali style of chanting. And so the common Bengalis were very attracted to listening. So it starts off where, well, first, actually a little bit after the beginning, and it corresponds with what we're studying right now. There's a discussion, Damodar Pandit contributes to this point, that Narada Muni, after returning from Dwarka, came to Naimisharanya and he met Uddhava. And Uddhava says, "Oh, this is such an auspicious day that I'm getting your association here at Naimisharanya, here with the Guru of Veda Vyas, and here where he has compiled these literatures where they have been chanted and spoken. And I'm begging for the mercy of Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, and all the Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, that whatever I speak, I'm saying it. Hopefully I may not get all of the details correct, but I'm hoping you understand my heart, that I'm trying to explain these ecstatic pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and his devotees. So Uddhava is very worried. He says, "Narada, I don't understand. How is this going to work? Because Kali has taken over. He's eating everything up with his consort sin. They're eating up everyone in sin. There is no religion. Everything is irreligious. There is no piety. Everyone is impious. In the previous ages, we had austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And gradually it diminished. But now we don't have austerity, cleanliness, and austerity. Just truthfulness. There's no religion. No one is taking to it." And Lord Narada Muni then says to Uddhava, it's very interesting that you're asking me at this point, because I have just returned from Dwarka, from Vaikuntha, and I was having the same feelings. I am chanting all over the universe, all over the earth, the Lord's holy names with my veena, and no one is paying attention. I see everyone being devoured by sin, and Kali is like a snake, entangling everyone in impious activities. And so he was coming to see the Lord to explain his dilemma about what is going to, how is this going to happen? How are we going to save these fallen souls in Kali Yuga? Kali Yuga is dark. It's sinful. It's the most inauspicious age. And it turns out, just at that moment, when he arrived, there had been an exchange between Krishna and Rukmini. And Krishna had just come from Satyabhama's palace, and he came to see Rukmini. And she immediately, when she heard he was coming, she cleans the clean palace. In the spiritual world, everything's clean, but they're always clean. And she receives him. I think 2 of the other wives were there too, Chandramali and Nagnajit, or Satya, the one that Krishna got by taming the 7 bulls. And so they receive him properly, and Rukmini is bathing his feet, and she's massaging his feet, and then she just becomes overwhelmed in ecstatic symptoms and is crying. And Krishna's wondering, why are you crying? What is the problem? Why? And she says, you don't understand. You don't understand. Radharani, she understands. You don't understand the separation, the ecstasy that Radharani experiences from worshipping your lotus feet. we, your devotees, what we feel when we worship your lotus feet. You don't understand. And then I know these lotus feet that are here now, they will leave. I'll feel that separation. You don't know Radha Baba. And Krishna is saying, you mean there's something I don't understand? You know, I'm Krishna. I said, no, you don't understand. You don't understand what we feel. And he said, so he then decides, I want to feel this. I want to know this feeling that Radharani and my devoted, pure devotees are feeling. I want that feeling. And I'm going to come to Kali Yuga and I'm going to distribute it. I want to feel it, and then I want to give it to everyone. Everyone. And this is just when Narada Muni comes and is telling the Lord, there's no hope for Kali Yuga. There's no hope for these people. It's darkness only, sin only. And then the Lord reveals to him that I've been talking with Rukmini, and I realize now that I want to experience the same, in the mood of Radharani. I want to come, and it's an incarnation of mercy, that I can experience the devotion, the love, and the ecstasy from serving my lotus feet. I want to be the devotee of myself. And then I want to distribute this love, this mercy to everyone. And I'm going to come in a golden form like Radharani. And then he stands up and shows the Gauranga form for the first time.
Wow. Well, it's Narada Muni.
Huh?
Narada Muni was the first witness?
When Rukmini and like that.
Wow.
So Narada Muni is telling Uddhava, it's going to be all right. It's going to work out. He's coming. And he sent me. The Lord said, I want you to go and tell everyone on the earth. I want you to tell all the demigods to prepare for my coming to the earth and to assist me. And what time is the class end?
8:10.
Huh?
8:10.
Like now?
You.
Okay. So anyway, Narada Muni just goes into ecstasy. I mean, he's so ecstatic, and he leaves. And he sees Uddhava, and they have this discussion. And then he goes off to see Lord Shiva and Parvati, Katyayani, and they have a very interesting pastime there. And the thing is about these pastimes by Lochan Thakur is they're not chronological, and there's other stories within stories. So part of what was told in the Chaitanya Mangala. Now I also want to explain that the Chaitanya Mangala, there was another Chaitanya Mangala written by Vrindavan Das, and Raghunath Das, Jiva Goswami, even, I believe Krishna Das, many other great Vaishnavas, they decided that Vrindavan Das writing should be called Chaitanya Bhagavad, because he's like the Veda Vyas of Chaitanya pastimes, his writings. And that Lochant should be known as Chaitanya Mangala. And Murari Gupta, his is actually called Sri Krishna Chaitanya Charita. And it's also called something else like Karcha, something like that, his diaries.
Kadachas.
What is it?
Kadachas.
Kadachas, yes. And that is a more formal, like Sanskrit verse. And these are Bengali verses, and it's like I said, it's like a song. And so it's also, there's a description of how Narada Muni he had heard from Uddhava about the benefits of Mahaprasad, wearing the Lord's cloth, or actually tasting the food that had been offered to Krishna. And he never had that experience. He wanted that experience. And he approached the goddess of fortune, Sri Devi, that please, I want to taste the Lord's Mahaprasadam. I've never had that experience. I want that taste. So she's something that we take for common, very commonly. You know, we just take it for granted. And she said, I'm not allowed to distribute it. He's ordered me not to give it out. But if you serve me for 12 years with devotion, I will make an arrangement. So he does that, and now the 12 years are up. She's very nervous. She goes to the Lord and says, I think I've made a mistake. I made a promise to Narada. He wants a morsel of your Mahaprasad, and I know you said not to, but he was so sincere, he was so determined. He served me for 12 years, and I told you not to. The Lord says, but if that's what you promised, then go ahead. But do not do this again. So he takes the prasadam and goes mad in ecstasy. And then he goes to see Lord Shiva. And he's just completely mad. He's just more ecstatic than ever, and now knowing about Lord Chaitanya's appearance. And so Lord Shiva sees him, and why are you so ecstatic? He said, I've just had some of the Lord's Mahaprasadam. And Lord Shiva's very angry. You didn't save any for me? You're so greedy, you kept it for yourself? And then he says, well, I do have one little morsel left. He grabs it. Lord Shiva grabs it and takes it. And he becomes so ecstatic. His dancing and his chanting is so powerful that the whole universe is shaking. And Mother Bhumi is being forced down to Rasatala. So she comes running up to Katyayani and says, Parvati, please. His chanting is destroying the whole universe if he continues in this way. So she goes to him and interrupts him, and he is very angry. Why have you disturbed my ecstasies? And then she explains what Bhumi had said, but she says, why are you dancing so ecstatically? Why? And he said, well, I had some Mahaprasada. And she goes, what? You didn't save any for me? And what could he say? So she then makes a vow that I vow that I will distribute Mahaprasada to everyone in the world. And at that moment, the Lord of Vaikuntha appears. And he says, I will help you fulfill that vow. And then he tells her that there's another hidden meaning to the pastime of the churning of the milk ocean of Mandara Hill. The first thing that came out of the churning was a Kalpa Vriksha tree. And within that tree, there is a golden effulgence. And Lord Chaitanya is within that tree. And that's the real meaning of that pastime of churning the Mandara Hill. Not just to get the, what is it called, the nectar that they were fighting over. It's really that Lord Chaitanya is in that tree, and he's now going to be coming. And he's going to distribute Mahaprasadam to everyone by your, and to fulfill your vow. Hare Krishna. So, Lochan Thakur ki jai. Murari Gupta ki jai. Damodar Pandit ki jai. Go Premananda Hari Hari Bo. And so what I want to say is that you can see when Prabhupada is sitting there